Hey guys, Obelisk here. I'm back with another installment to my DAoC class overview video series. Today we're going to be talking about the Warlock class, which is one of the more interesting classes in the game. The class has overgone so many different changes over its existence, pretty much being completely different now than it was in its original iteration. But we're going to go into it a little bit. Warlocks have some of the most unique mechanics. There's a lot of specific mechanics that only Warlocks have, so it might take a little while to get through the whole class. There's 3 pretty good spec lines, so it might be a longer video, especially since we have to cover a lot of the mechanics that are Warlock only. I want to make sure that those are hammered home pretty well, as well as talking about all of the different specs, or maybe not all the different specs, but the different spell lines and some spec options. Because Warlock's class, I think you can get away with a few different combinations of specs. So let's go ahead and hop into game here. We're on my Warlock, and first and foremost, we'll just go over their one baseline that they have. It's a base cursing. Pretty simple line here. You get your standard armor factor buff, turn 50 armor factor. You get your standard 10 absorption buff, 20-minute durations on both of those. Just keep them up all the time. Then you get a blade turn somewhere around here. Absorbs 1 melee hit, then goes away. And then you get this 179 Delve Spirit Nuke. This is good because it allows you to assist nuke a Dark SM, which is a pretty common debuff train on Midgard. So it allows Warlocks to be on that train. And with another spec, you can be on a Dark RM train. So it's nice. Warlocks can be kind of versatile now. You'd have to run a matter debuff for the Warlock, or else he was nuking on debuffed and it wasn't really that good. But now it can nuke off the Spirit Train too if it needs to. So that's really nice. And we'll use that nuke just to show you what it looks like here. I'm just gonna nuke this little mob right there. Just a standard Spirit nuke like all the other casters get in mid and baseline. Then we get this bolt. It's just a standard bolt, nothing special about it. Just like remasters, wizards, elds, things like that. Baseline bolt. Then you get a root, and the root is your standard root as well. It's a 2.5 second, 1500 range cast time root. Oops, there we go. There it is. 1 minute, 13 second duration. Gives you immunity, all that good stuff. Nothing special about it. Just a run of the mill root. All right. Now, this Warlock right here. Now, I have 3 Warlocks I'm going to show you, all different specs. This Warlock is a high cursing spec Warlock. And what I would probably do, this is an okay spec, or you can go 48 curse and 23 hexing, and you get a little matter debuff for yourself. It doesn't really matter either way. I think both are okay. If I were to spec this thing again, I'd probably go for the better, or for 48 cursing, but I'll tell you why in a little bit. But first off, we need to talk about Warlocks and what makes them unique. So Warlocks have, we'll go ahead and pull up cursing. We'll look at our bolt right here, our spec bolt. Just using this as an example, if you can see down here, it says this is a secondary spell. So in order for this spell to be cast, it's on the bar right here. As you can see here, you must set a primer before casting the spell. So Warlocks get 3 primers, 1 in each spec line. So let's talk about the primers first off. So the primer we get in Curse is this range buff. And if we have this up, it allows us to, let's go ahead and let's just clear all these off. This range buff, we'll put it up. It allows all of our secondary spells to cast at 120% of their normal range. So it's a 20% boost to your spell range. So you can see we put it up here, and now we can put this bolt on the bar, and we can actually use it. So now it casts, and boom, it's the bolt. Let's talk about it. Is a bolt range spell because obviously it's a bolt. 1875, and then if we have this primer up, it's plus 20% onto that 1875. And then hopefully your template has 10% range, so it's going to be a pretty long range bolt. So in order for any secondary spell that a Warlock uses, and not all Warlock spells are secondary. Some are just normal run-of-the-mill spells. You need to have this primer up. And now, just to quickly touch on the other primers, because they are important. We'll be using them. We'll be talking about them a lot, and you will be using them quite a bit, especially the uninterruptible primer. But let's talk about some. So in Witchcraft, you get the it's a pure cast, what's called, at least a low level one. It allows you to cast a secondary spell without using power. However, at low levels, these are slower cast times than what they will be. They will actually decrease the cast time on these spells. So right now we have a level 6 or level 5 pure cast. Let me put the near sight on the bar so we can spam it, because the bolt has a cooldown. So you can see we put the pure cast on, and this is our powerless primer, and it allows us to cast this secondary spell near sight. And I'll talk about the near sight in a little bit, but I just want to use it as an example. So here you see how long it takes to cast. That's pretty quick, but let's turn on this primer. You can see it's much faster. So at low levels, it does decrease the cast speed of these spells, or increase the cast speed, I should say. Increases the casting time. That makes more sense. However, it's free power, whereas your range primer is going to be 5% power cost. So you will be using power when you use it, but it's a lot faster. Plus, you get the range bonus, which is really nice, especially at high levels. 20% range is really cool. To look at the other primer, and like I said, this Witchcraft primer, the cast speed increases. You'll become like the normal cast time as you get higher level. And it will always be powerless. However, your Hexing primer is really interesting. This is the uninterruptible primer. So when you use this, you cannot be interrupted while casting your secondary spells. However, as you can see here, if you read the description, the effectiveness of the spell decreases. At level 22, it decreases by 35%. It scales. The effectiveness gets better as you put more points into Hexing, and you get higher level UI primers. Also, the power cost, it's 25% per spell at this level, and that scales based on the level. So the really low level UIs are 40% power cost per spell, whereas a level 22 is 25%. And I believe the last, which is the higher level, the red fixed cast UI spell is 10% power, and I believe it's only a 10% reduction. But we'll talk about that later. I just want everyone to know that there are 3 primary abilities. One is a powerless cast, one is uninterruptible, and one is an extended range. And they vary based on the effectiveness and the power cost and the speeds and stuff. Vary based on what level they are. So now that we have that all settled, I'm gonna put all my primers together on the quick bar. Here we go. There we go. Put my quick bar here so you can see it. Sorry, mid's a pain because it's so white, so bright in here you can't really see a lot of things. But we'll see if we can get a darker backdrop. Okay. So right now, here are my 3 primers. I'll do them. There we go. Okay. Now let's go back to Cursed. So we talked about the bolt. We talked about the primer, and this is at the highest level, 120% range of your secondary spell. It scales down by 5% every level you scale down. It's always going to be 5% power cost, but the second highest level one's 115%. The yellow one's 110%. The next one is going to be like 107, and then it scales down to 105%. Anyway, so now that's covered. We have this bolt that we talked about. It's a pretty hard-hitting bolt, and it is a secondary spell. So you can uninterruptible cast it, you can powerless cast it, and you can extended range cast. I would always suggest either extended range casting it, or I never really use this pure cast. One, because the 5% power cost on the range primer isn't that much, especially with templates nowadays, with the amount of power regen, stuff like that you can get in the template. It's really, I would much rather have a faster casting spell that costs a little bit of power. So I'm always either going to use this or the UI. And when I say UI, I mean uninterruptible. But yeah. So yeah, it's a hard hitting bolt. We'll see with my current RA specs and stuff, the cap's about 1100. That could be higher depending if you have more intelligence and things like that, or more PID, whatever it is, and better RAs. Anyway, so next curse spell we get, and this bolt also has a cooldown. It's a 20-second cooldown, standard bolt stuff. The next spell we get is just a run-of-the-mill, normal cast DD. It's not a secondary spell. You can't UI it. You can't extended range it. It's just a DD. And it is a 199 delve, matter DD, 1500 range, 2.6 second cast time. So we'll see it in action. It's pretty hard. 702 is my current cap. It's good when you're assisting a rune carving RM because they can debuff matter. They'll be debuffing cold if you're running a dark train. They'll be debuffing cold for the SM and maybe a bone dancer and maybe another RM, maybe a dark RM. But if there's a warlock in the mix, he'll probably want to debuff matter so you can hit really hard. And your bolts also matter, so you can, if you debuff matter, you're hitting pretty hard. The next spell we get is something a lot of people know warlocks for, is this PB AoE spell. And this is a 325 delve PB AoE. It is a secondary spell, so from what I understand, the range doesn't actually affect anything. So it's not like I'll be getting more radius if I have the UI. Let's test it real quick. Let's get to the very edge to where we're not. Actually, let's turn on this. There we go. Get to the very edge where we're not hitting the thing. We'll see if this increases the radius because I'm not actually sure. Okay. So we're still hitting it. Okay, at this point we're not hitting the dummy. Now let's turn on the range primer and see if we hit land. Okay, so it does increase the radius. So when you have your ranged primer up, it will increase the radius of your PBAOE. But a lot of the times, a lot of people UI cast it. So when you're getting hit, you can still UI and PB people down. So that's always good. It's great for bombing. When you know you're going to get erupted, just turn on the UI cast and go to town with your PBs. It does cost a lot of power, but you know, today's templates, it's not the end of the world. And I'll get to templates. The curse set, just, you know, to sort of talk about it now, the curse set for Warlock decreases the power cost by 5% for the UI cast across all levels. So this one says 25. If you have the full curse set on, it's only going to cost 20% power. So that's nice. A little bit of power saving there. If you like to UI a lot, template that in. Anyway, so you have your PA. Obviously, if you're not getting interrupted, you'll get a lot more damage if you have the ranged primer up or the powerless, but use the range. It's much faster. You get full damage out of it instead of having that effectiveness debuff, and costs a lot less power. So good PB. Next, we get this near sight. And this is really strong because it's a 2300 range spell. And when you add that, when you compound that with your 120% range, it's super long range. That's going to be what? 20% of this is going to be, 400 and some change. So the spell is going to be 2750 or so. About maybe, with your 10% range, this spell is going to be around 2900 range. So that's going to be a huge, super long range spell. It's a really good near sight too, 65% effectiveness for near sight. And it is a secondary spell, so you can UI it if you need to. You can extend and range it. Great interrupting tool, great utility, stopping casters from doing their well. If you have to get erupt out really quick in a fight, just UI it. You have tanks on you. You can erupt while you're getting interrupted. That's a good spell to use. And that's going to about do it for all the spells besides the chambers. There's 2 chambers in this line. 2 chambers in every line, one at level 16 and one at level 37. Let's look at the level 37 chamber for Cursed. And it's going to be a PB AoE chamber. It's not super hard hitting PB AoE, but it is a little extra damage. Chambers on Warlocks, you used to be able to load your chambers with whatever secondary and primary. There used to be primary spells also besides the primers. Those are gone. I'm not even going to talk about those, but you used to could load your chambers to pretty much have whatever you wanted in them. It's no longer the case now. You only get set chambers that, you know, you're kind of limited. But anyway, so this is a PB AoE chamber. You just run over here, and if you want to unload it, click it again, and then it PBs. And then there's a reuse timer between chamber dumps. You can't dump like all 4 chambers at once, and then it takes some time to recast it. What I like to do with this, you can get a lot of damage out if you Let's put the PB back on the bar. So you're on this little dude right here, and you want to hit him really hard. So you're going to cast your PB and when the spell is about to land, go ahead and unload your chamber, and they'll hit twice. You'll hit both PBs at the exact same time. So as you can see there, I hit each of the test dummies twice within the same exact time. So it's a lot of spike damage. So think about using that. The level 16 chamber increases your chance to crit by 10% for 20 seconds. Also, if you have the curse set, it also affects these level 16 chambers as well, as in addition to lowering the UI power cost. So it's going to make your this chamber give you 15% chance to crit instead of 10 if you have the curse set on. I would use the curse set on a Warlock, especially if you think you're going to use the uninterruptible primer a lot. So what this does is it's loaded. You see it floating above my head, and then I just use it, and then it gives me the buff, and then I crit for 20 seconds. You can see the buff up here. Anyway, that does it for cursed. Pretty simple line. Good damage. But let's look at the subspec line, and I'll tell you why I go 22 or 23 hex. I'll tell you why I would probably. I'll go through all that I have right now. It's mainly just a few spells that I really use, but I'll tell you why I might go 23 once I get there. Once I go through everything. So first and foremost, the main thing that you spec hex for is for the uninterruptible primer, and I get the level 22 version, which is a 25% power cost that only debuffs my effectiveness by 35%. If I went a lower hex spec, I would only get, I would have to get this level 12 solid cast. It's 7% more power and also 5% less effective spells. So I chose to go for 22 instead. Other spells you get that you might want to use, this Pet Scare. It's a 15-second pet scare. It does give you immunity, so you can't like chain pet scare a pet, but it's good to use on like minstrel pets, sork pets, things like that. Really good against minstrel pets because minstrels rely on their pets so much, but it's just a low duration pet scare. Nice to have. Other things you might want to use, you get this little AoE nuke that is a secondary spell, so you can UI cast it if you want. It's a snare nuke. Okay, I guess for peeling a little bit if you need to. I don't know. I'll get into more of the hexing stuff soon, but I just want to hit the stuff that I would actually use in the spec line. Also, this snare that turns people into frogs. I'll show you this in a second when I'm on my hexing warlock, but just know this does not give root immunity, and it is unbreakable, the snare. So it's really strong, but the version I get only lasts for 20 seconds, but still really good. But I'll show you more about this when I cover hexing. Also, you get the con debuff, instant con debuff. It's not a huge con debuff, but you may as well use it. It's free damage. It just lowers their total hit points. So if they're at 100% and you hit them with this con debuff, they lose 24 con. That's 100 or so hits taken away from them instantly. Also, you get this this power regen chamber, and the delve's weird. So you get the improved version only when you have the armor, the cursed armor active. But I find that put it up. I find that it gives way more than 20% power. So let's go ahead and use a bunch of power. See how much I have a lot of arcane siphon in the template, so I don't use a ton of power in general. Okay, so we are at 1% power. 7% power. We hit this and we go up to 57%. So that gave me 50%. It says 20%, and then it says the improved version is only available if you have the set armor, which I definitely don't. But yeah, so I got 50%. I'm supposed to be getting 20%, so I don't know what's going on with that. And that's pretty much it for the hexing line. Except what I was talking about earlier, I would probably try to lower my cursing down to 48. And maybe lose this last range primer. But what I would gain is this blue matter debuff, which is a 2-second cast time, 15% matter debuff. I might go for that, just to self debuff for myself in this line. It's not a huge damage spike; it's only 15%, but it's nice. Might be something you want to do. Just options. And that's going to be it for the cursing spec Warlock. So what I'm going to do now is swap over to my Hex Warlock. And we're just going to talk about the Hex line real quick. So just to show you the spec before we get into it, I'm 49 Hex because you don't get anything at 50. And then I decided to go 16 Witchcraft and 16 Cursing. And that's just because I wanted the 2 chambers. Also get near sight and things like that. You can always go less Witchcraft, more Cursing if you want. It helps your baseline DD if you're nuking spirit damage. It helps the variance on that. And also, I believe you get a better near sight if you want to do something like that. But it's entirely up to you. But yeah, let's look at the Cursing spec line real quick. We already went over some of the things, but I'll just go over them real quick. First and foremost, let's look at the highest level primer. So this is that uninterruptible primer. Here at level 48, it's only 10% power cost as opposed to my Curse Warlock's 25% power cost. And also, if you have the Curse set, this only costs you 5% power. So that's huge. That's the same as your extended range power cost. So, and you only lose 10% effectiveness. So your spells are 90% effective as opposed to, like my Curse Locks loses 35% of its effectiveness. So it's a massive, massive UI buff. But first and foremost, we'll look at the main source of damage you get, and that's just a run-of-the-mill life tap. It's not a secondary spell. You can't use it. You can't use it with a UI primer. You can't use it with an extended range primer. It's just a standard life tap. 2.5 second cast time, so it's really quick. It's 184 delve and 90% damage is returned to healing. So it's like a dark SM life tap. This is really nice. A lot of damage here, and it's energy damage. So Dark SM can debuff Spirit for himself and any other Spirit nukers, and then also energy debuff for a Hexing Warlock and a Thane if they're in a group together. So there's a good amount of cohesion there between this spec and a Dark SM using a subtrain. So that's nice. Anyway, your standard life tap hits really hard, live health return, but you can't UI it or anything cool like that. A really cool spell you get in here is this AoE root, which is a secondary spell. So let me put my let me put at least these two. Where is it? Extended range. There we go. Let me put these on the bar. Okay, so I have my UI primer and my extended range primer. My extended range primer with this spec only gives me an extra 5% range. Yeah, only 5% range, but it costs 5% power, and there's no penalty as far as effectiveness on it. So I'll use this a lot of the time unless I think I'm about to get interrupted, and I'll swap to this. But so this is just a AoE root. It's a 1 minute 13 second root, which is the same as your single target root. 2.5 second cast time, so same, but it's just AoE, and it's a secondary spell. So this is really, really good. If you're getting erupted and you just need CC, you got a lot of people pushing you or something like that, and you just need to stop them, hit your UI and then just like spam root people, root all over the battlefield and then kite away. This is a super strong way to get a lot of really good CC and a lot of really potent CC out. Because if you're only losing 10% of the duration, that's not too much. That's definitely worth it. So yeah, this is a strong little ability, especially coupled with the uninterruptible primary. Next, we get this AoE snare nuke that we talked about earlier. The only difference now is it actually hits kind of hard. It's 131 delve, so it's not a super hard hitting nuke. The thing is, it's a secondary spell, so you can UI it. So if you're just stuck with a bunch of Thurg pets on you and your group's just getting flooded by Thurg pets, you just turn on your UI and then start nuking like the Thurg pets off your support and healers and stuff like that. And you can see I don't have any sort of great template on this thing, and I'm spamming a UI right now. I don't even think I have Infernals or any Power Regen or any sort of Siphon. I have a little bit of Siphon actually, but so yeah, this is just super nice because you can kill pets all day with this thing. Kill them off yourself, your support, whatever. Also, if a target's at like 30% and you're erupted, you can just snare nuke them down. You can't like single target nuke anything down because there's no single target secondary spells other than that bolt, which has a cooldown. But you can spam nuke someone down if they're low, everyone's erupted, and you just need to kill someone. Just sit there and AoE snare nuke them. Also, a great way to kill any sort of pet. Say there's like a third or a Sork pet pushing into you, you're erupted, and you can just put I don't know, 10 nukes of these into it and kill it. If it doesn't get healed, then that's great. You just killed it while you're erupted, essentially. Because obviously you can cast without worrying about interrupts with the UI primer. Next, whoops, wrong line. Next we have our con debuff, which is significantly better. It's 46 con, so just literally use this on anyone that's getting nuked. You may as well throw it around. So 30-second duration with a 10-second recast. Anyone that's taking damage, put that on. Next, we get your matter debuff. You get a 50% matter debuff. Not super useful unless you have another warlock with you, like a cursing warlock that you want to debuff for. I guess you can debuff for your baseline bolt with this, but I don't think it's super useful. It's there. Next, you get this. We have this frog snare that I talked about earlier, and let's get in a duel with my other warlock, and I'll show you this thing. Okay, so we got my warlock friend here, and I'm gonna have him running. I'm gonna cast the frog on him, so it's gonna shapeshift him into a frog, and he's snared, as you can see. So now what I'm gonna do is he's running around. I'm gonna life tap him, and normally most snares break when you damage, but this one doesn't. So I can just nuke people down while they're still snared, and it's not gonna break. The snare is fading now, so I'm getting a little bit faster. And once the snare fades, I'm going to show you why this is also really good. A lot of snares like this give root immunity when they're done. However, let's have this guy run. Let's hit him with a root. He's rude. So it doesn't give root immunity, and it's unbreakable when you're using it. It's not a super long duration, 35 seconds. It's affected by resist, debt, things like that. But you may as well use it. It doesn't give root immunity, and it's unbreakable. It's great. Use it when on targets you're nuking or targets that you want to peel off yourself or friends. It's a secondary spell, so you can UI it if you need to, or you can use your extended range thing. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, good spell. Really strong spell for Warlocks, in my opinion, especially at higher levels because it lasts a bit longer. The snare is always going to be 40%, but yeah. So let's see. So he's rooted, and I want to see, because it has a different immunity for the snare than the root. So our immunity for the snare is gonna expire in 10 seconds, and I just broke the root, so he's still root immune for another 47 seconds. So I'm gonna cast the frog on him. Right, so he's running normally. I'm gonna recast the frog, and it snares him. Okay, good. So a lot of things are affected kind of weirdly. So like if a target's already root immune and you try to snare something, even if it doesn't give root immunity, it still might not land. This is not one of those spells, so it's going to land no matter what. It has its own completely separate immunity, which is really nice. Okay, so next we have this pet scare I talked about earlier. At higher levels, it's a 30-second pet scare, so it takes a pet out of the fight for 30 seconds. Really strong, especially against things like minstrels and things like that that really rely on their pets, or like sork pets are really annoying. Just go ahead and get them out of here. It's not a secondary spell, so you can't UI it, unfortunately, but still a really good spell. And that's going to be it for all the normal spells other than the chambers. Let's look at the level 37 chamber. What this is going to do is reset your quick cast, which Warlock's good. It's kind of cool. Oops. Not the best chamber in the world, but it's useful. So let's see. Let's have my Warlock melee. I'll show you the use. Okay, so I can't cast, obviously, getting erupted. So I'm going to quick cast a life tap. Now I'm going to use my chamber. You see my quick cast reset there, and I can quick cast another life tap. Oops, the duel ended, unfortunately, for some reason. I'm not sure why. So that's awkward. But anyway, I'll show you again once I can reduel. Okay, so get meleeed. Gonna see this. Okay, so heal proc's apparently in the duel, so I'm not really gonna worry with that. Anyway, you know what it does. It resets the quick cast. We'll quick cast on this training dummy. You can see my quick cast fade. Oops. You see my quick cast goes down. I hit this, quick cast comes back up, and I can quick cast another spell. Cool little ability, I suppose. The other chamber. Did we already cover this? Yeah, this is the power regen chamber, which I covered a second ago on my hex lock. Now the cool stuff you get in this line, you still get that little crit chamber, which is nice. You also get a near sight, level 12 near sight, And that's pretty much all you're going to be using other than the extended range primer. This also helps increase your or decrease your variance for your baseline spirit nuke if you have to use that. Like if you're in a group situation and you're with a dark SM and he's debuffing spirit and energy for you, energy is probably going to be his secondary debuff. It's probably going to be his, not as important. So he's going to debuff spirit most of the time first. If he gets erupted and you can't debuff energy, you might want to use a spirit nuke. So you're going to want a decent amount of curse. What you can do is, let's go ahead and go to my little character planner site I'm on over here. What you can do, okay, this is not what I need to be on. There we go. Okay, so we're 49. There we go. What you can do is you can go ahead and go for the, at least you can go for 18, or you can go for 21. It doesn't really matter. If you don't want the chamber, and I'll tell you what the chamber does in the Witchcraft line. If you don't want that chamber, you can just go higher. You can go 22 cursed to decrease your variance and get a little bit better of near sight. But let's get back in game and let me show you what the chamber does for the Witchcraft line. Sorry. So what this does is it's a chamber. Did I have it put up? Nope, there it is. And it's a heal over time. So really nice heal over time, actually. It's a 3% heal over time every 2 seconds for 20 seconds. It's a lot of healing. And if you have the curse set, it's 5% every 2 seconds. So even more healing. So, and it affects you and your group mates. So it's a little PB AoE around you. So I'm gonna nuke this Warlock down a bit. Let's get him kind of low. All right, now let's fire the chamber. Okay, so watch this health go up. So I think this is a pretty nifty chamber, especially in like small man situations, especially if you have the curse set. I mean, 5% is pretty good every 2 seconds. So, that's nice. It's not anything game breaking, but I do quite like that. So I chose to lower my cursing for this, but you certainly don't have to. You can get more cursing to decrease your variance and have a higher near sight if you so choose. You also get a little bit of some heals, but I'll get into this in a second. It's very important. Anyway, so those are the two main like damage style lines, I guess. The more normalized damage styles or damage lines that Warlocks get. They also get a spec line called Witchcraft. And I'm going to log in a Witchcraft Warlock here in a second. And they are very, very interesting in my opinion. So I'm just going to log this guy out and let me load in this other Warlock real quick. Give me 1 second. And let me make sure I'm on the right. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now that he's in, let me throw him some buffs really quick. Now, Witchcraft is going to be your more support-oriented spec. However, you can do quite a lot of damage with it as well, especially if you go 50 Witchcraft. So I'm going to cover the support portion of it first. And then I'll show you the damage. The damage comes from dots, a dot chain, which is really interesting. Really unique mechanic. But let's go ahead and talk about just the boring, not the boring stuff, the more support-oriented stuff. First off, let me show you the spec. The IM at least. Of course, you can go a different version of this, but this is just what I want to do. I'm 50 Witchcraft, 16 Cursing, and 12 Hexing. This gets me the level 12 UI and just some more or less variance on my cursing stuff, and also a near sight, and then the chamber, the crit chamber. So, Witchcraft. First and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the fact that I do have a UI. Let me find it, because that's very important for the spec. Even though it's very low level, I've got this uninterruptible spell. So let's go ahead and put down the bar. And then let's get my primer from this line. And this primer is where is it? Masterful Cast. This is my powerless cast. However, at this high level, it doesn't give me any sort of negative benefit as far as cast speed for using it. So it's really nice to use. And I'll also get my cursing one, I suppose, may as well. A little bit extra range, 105% range. Let's put that up top. There we go. Okay. So, but a lot of the time I'll probably use this, the powerless cast. Okay, so let's get started. So first off, we have this great armor factor debuff. It's 250 armor factor debuff. That is a secondary spell, so you can uninterruptible it, you can powerless cast it, you can extended range cast, whatever. This is going to make your tanks hit super hard on the target you debuff. And if you're getting erupted and you can't quite get it off, you can hit your UI and then cast the debuff on someone. So that's good. Second spell we get is this really, really good self ABS buff, self melee absorption buff. And this is going to replace your baseline one. All casters get a 10 melee absorb buff. However, this melee absorb buff brings your absorb to 31. So that's triple the standard caster absorb. That's like in the chain range for absorb, I believe, if I remember correctly. So this is going to make you super tanky. Well, I say super tanky for a caster. Okay, so that's really nice. Next spell you get is a secondary power regen spell. If you know what crack or a palm is, if you've heard those terms, those are power regen buffs that sorks, healers, mentalists get. Bards, minstrels, scalds get a song version. The red palm, red crack is valued at 10. Not a lot of people get red palm. It's mostly yellow, which is 8 value, which is really nice. This is 20. This is a super palm. So let's use some power. Okay, the issue with this though is it will overwrite your healer's crack or healer's palm. So once you cast this, it lasts a minute. Once this fades, you're going to lose your healer palm. You have to ask him to recast it for you, but it's super strong while you have it up. And you can keep it up pretty easy. Like you can UI it and stuff if you need to. It lasts a minute. So let's use a bunch of power. We're using my UI primer just to have a lot of power costs. This UI primer is going to cost me 32% per cast. It's super bad. Okay, so now we're at like no power, and I'm going to cast my crack. My self crack, and just watch the power. Watch it spike up once it starts going up. Goes up pretty well, especially considering I don't have a lot of power regen in this template, I suppose. But it's actually going up really slowly. It's a lot faster than it would normally, so just know that. So that's really nice. So that's a good spell to have up at the beginning of a fight. If you're free and you know a fight's about to happen, or like you have a free spot where you're not really doing much, you may as well just cast this. Use your powerless cast it, and you're good. You saw how fast my power went from 0 to 100, just pretty much while I was talking there. So pretty strong. Keeps your power up while you're fighting, which is important if you're using a lot of these UIs because they do cost a ton of power. All right, next spell we get spread heal. This is your standard spread heal. It's not a secondary spell. You can't UI it. It's just normal cast spread heal. So fun stuff there. Next spell you get, which is a little bit more interesting, is this group heal. And this is a secondary spell, so you can UI this. You can also powerless cast it, so you can literally heal for... You can heal until forever, because you don't run out of power ever. If you do decide to turn on your UI, you will run out of power pretty quickly, but you can uninterruptibly heal. Oops, I didn't go off. There we go. You can uninterruptibly heal, so... That's pretty strong. Especially, you can do some variations on the specs and get a better UI that doesn't cost as much power. And obviously with a proper template and stuff, it's not as bad on the power consumption. But anyway, so there's a group heal that you can uninterruptible cast or powerless cast. Really strong. Next, you get this cool little heal buff for your group. It's a once you cast it, it's a chant. So it affects all members in your group within 1500 range. And it's just a 10% heal bonus to healers, shamans, Valkyries, anyone, yourself included. So really nice. Just keep this up and you'll be healing for 10% more. So can't really beat that. Next, you get this res. It's a secondary spell, so you can uninterruptedly cast it. From what I've seen, you cannot powerless cast it. It's always going to cost power, unfortunately. Regardless, it's a res. Cool. You can UI res it if your whole group's erupted and you got to get a res off. You can just uninterruptedly res someone. 10% power, 10% health. Not a great res, but it's a res. Next spell you get is this major heal. And let's do a little challenge. Let's get in a duel with my my other Warlock here. And let's throw on throw my curse stuff. Let me know. I'll just show you how much this heals for. Keep in mind, I'm not in the heal bonus template, so I'm missing 25% heal bonus or so. I probably have some heal bonus. Okay, I have 0 heal bonus apparently. So I have no heal bonus, so other than my little chant, it's helping me out. So I heal for 531. I'm going to heal for 25% more in a better template. So it's a pretty strong single target heal. It's not a secondary spell. You can't UI it. You can't powerless cast it. It's just a normal, good old-fashioned heal. Shamans get a major heal. Healers get a major heal. Valkyries even get one. So it's the same spell. And that's going to do it except for the chambers and the dots. So let me get to the chambers real quick. Your first chamber, your higher level chamber, I should say, is this this heal chamber. It says 50% heal. It doesn't actually heal for 50%, unfortunately. It's kind of like the opposite of the power region chamber, where it says it heals for 20% but heals for 50. This says it heals for 50%, but it heals for about probably 40%. Let's nuke this guy down a little bit. You can use it on yourself or a friend. It's 2,000 range. So it's okay. So this guy's at 28%. Let's let him tick up one little tick of health. So we aren't going to have the numbers messed up. All right, 30%. And I use this insta heal, and it heals him up to 63%. That's roughly that's a 34% heal. Not quite 50%, but whatever. It's a nice little heal. Healed for 696, if you can see that here. So it's an insta heal. You can cast it, after you use it. It takes a little while to cast. The other chamber you get, we already talked about, is the heal over time chamber. Really cool. Also, one thing I forgot about, you get these cures. Cure disease and cure poison. Yep, there it is. So these are cool because, let me put them on this bar actually. These are cool because you can uninterruptedly cast these or powerless cast them. They are secondary spells. But other than that, they're your run-of-the-mill disease cure, poison cure, with the exception that you can extended range cure them or uninterruptedly cure them, which is pretty handy. That's going to do it for the entire support portion of the Witchcraft line. Now let's get into the really cool stuff, the stuff that I'm a big fan of. And that's these dots we got here. Let me go ahead and clear this up. Yeah, okay, we got all of those. Okay, so you're familiar with melee style chains. Think about the old like assassin ones where there's like 3 style chains after the evade chain, or you get a lot of standard ones like 2-part side chains or 2-part evade chains where you have to hit one style before you hit the other. They put in a spell chain to where you have to your target has to be affected by one dot to be able to cast the subsequent dot, which is really cool in my opinion. So let's go ahead and start with Dread, which is your instant dot. It's a 8-second reuse, 25-second long dot. So this is a long duration dot. 25 seconds is a long time, especially for a dot. So you're not going to be able to mez a target that's dotted like this, or it's going to be broken or root. So for example, let's throw out a root. And this has been ticking for a while, so going to root him. You can see he's on auto run. The next tick's going to break it. So be careful with these dots, and be careful if you're with a Warlock that's dotting, be careful what you CC. Because if you measure root something that's dotted, it's just going to break. So be careful with that. However, that's part of the dot chain. The next spell is this spell called Anguish. And you don't have to have Dread on a target to anguish someone. However, you do have to have Dread and Anguish on a target to hit someone with the next dot. So we'll keep that in mind. Anyway, Anguish is a castable dot. It's not super high damage or anything like that. Dread, for example, is 55 damage. Also, one second, let me touch back on Dread. So if you see that effect on me once I cast Dread, that's a 100 value, 100% absorb magical ablative. So it's going to absorb 100% up to 100 damage on a magical hit every time you cast this. So that's really cool. Also, it's a 55 damage body damage dot. So not really great. It's body damage. All the damage, or all the dots are a little bit different damage type. And now Anguish is a 60 damage matter dot. So these first 2 dots don't really hit very hard. As you can see, okay, my duel ended. That's cool. Let me re-challenge. Except, as you can see here, I hit for about 87 per tick with Dread, and my Anguish is only going to hit for 94 a tick, so nothing great. But let's move on to Agony. So Agony, as you can read here, says the target must be currently affected with Dread and Anguish before you can cast a spell. This is a secondary spell, so you can uninterruptedly cast this, extended range or powerless cast this. Also, when you land this dot, it casts a disease on the target as well. So it's a diseasing dot. It doesn't disease every tick. Keep that in mind. But on the first hit, it will disease the target. And also, it ticks a lot faster. So it ticks it every 3.5 seconds, and it is 125 cold damage. So that's significantly harder hitting than the other ones, 24-second duration. So the frequency's faster, and it's a higher delve. So this is when we start to get quite a bit of damage going. So now we hit Dread, hit Anguish, and now we hit Agony. And it resisted, apparently. So we'll hit Agony again. Okay, you can see hitting for 191. Now I'm going to have to heal this Warlock or he's going to die. Okay, this is unfortunate because every time I heal, the duel ends for some reason. Yeah, let me get my Shaman set up to heal, I guess. Sorry about that. Let me just get this going. And disease cure. Cool. Perfect. All right. So, back at it. Okay. So, now we've got Dread, we've got Anguish, and we have Agony down. So, the next dot is the big one, Doom. Okay. What Doom does, first off, you have to have Dread, Anguish, and Agony on the target before you can cast it. It's not a secondary spell. It's a completely normal spell. You can't UI it or anything cool like that. You can UI Anguish. It's a secondary spell, and Agony. Doom is not. So Doom is a 215 damage dot, matter damage, every 2.5 seconds. So the frequency is much faster, and the damage is even higher than even Agony. Also, it only lasts 10 seconds, so it's a very short dot. However, once the dot expires, it does 475 matter damage to the target, which is a ton of damage. After you've already been ticking with all 4 dots that hit really hard. I'll show you the damage here in a second. It's pretty devastating. So I'm going to have to swap to my Shaman to heal here in a second. So, all right. So there's Dread. Here's Anguish. Here's Agony. Okay, Agony resisted. No, Agony didn't. I'm going to hit him with Doom, okay? So there's Doom. And now I have to spam heal, or else the target's going to die. I'm on the Shaman. I cure the disease. I'm just spamming heal. And you can see how much damage this is. It's absolutely insane. So, yeah. Okay, so let's go back and look at the damage we had there. Keep in mind, let's see. Okay, I got really lucky with that dot chain because my Doom crit for 248 damage. So let's just look at that. So we hit him with Dread. So Dread's ticking for 87 damage. And it's ticking every 5 seconds. Then I hit him with Anguish. Anguish is hitting for 94 damage every 5 seconds. And then I hit him with Agony. Now Agony is hitting for 191 damage every 3.5 seconds. And then I landed Doom. And then, so Doom normally doesn't hit this hard. I got a crit, so it's a little bit high, but we'll do a round without a crit, hopefully. So if you get really lucky, your dot can crit. And then if it crits, literally every tick is that crit. So I crit for 248. So my Doom was literally hitting for 608 damage every, 2.5 seconds. So as you can see here, we have all these ticks happening. Look how much damage this is off of 4 spells. And one of those being an instant. So 3 casted spells did this much damage. I don't want to add it up. I don't want to sit here and bore you, but actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's add it up. Why not? We're here. I'm not going to show my calculator because, well, actually, I can do my third. Nah, it's too complicated. Anyway, actually, I'm going to read out and show my third monitor, and then yeah, okay. So first off, we have A7, and that ticked 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just say in that time that it took for Doom to go off, it ticked 4 times. So A7 times 4. So that's my Doom, or sorry, my Dread dot. Then, oops, sorry, erase that. So A7 times 4, plus we had Anguish hitting for 94. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4 times. 94 times 4. Oops. 94 times 4. There we go. Plus. Then we had Agony. Agony hit for 191. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times. Oops. Okay, now let's do Doom. So Doom hit for 608. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Jeez. Okay, so we've already done 3,000 damage, and then Doom exploded at the end, and I got a really lucky crit for, let's see, base hit for 116 plus a 513 crit. So I did all in all, I did 6,157 damage off of 3 spells and 1 instant dot. Okay, that's an insane amount of damage. Okay, if you can see here, here's all the damage right here. Within the time it took me to cast this Agony and the Dread until this is where I ended it right here. 6,157 damage. Granted, I will say I got really lucky with the crit here on Doom. I critted on the Doom dot and on the Doom explosion. So you're not going to be hitting for that hard every time. But, I mean, if you get crits, it's awesome. And you can go high Master Pain and you have the crit little, the crit chamber that you can use. So let's try this again. And maybe we won't get a crit. Okay. Oh my goodness. Hopefully I can. Okay. I think I got a crit again on Doom. So I got another crit on Doom, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're the one dotting. But so yeah, I got another crit at the end of Doom and on the cast. So I'm getting really lucky, I guess. But regardless, you can see how much damage I'm doing. Like, I have to spam graders on my shaman to stay alive. We'll do another round. I just think this is so fun. Like, I absolutely love this chain. Did I get a crit there? I don't think so. No. Okay. So this will be a little easier to heal, but I'm still doing an insane amount of damage. Like, this guy would be dead like 5 times over if I wasn't healing. So we had, let's see, where is it? Well, I guess it's weird. Anyway, that's a lot of damage regardless. So we'll just look at after I casted Doom. Here's my damage every few seconds. These are hitting, and this is without any crits, fortunately. So we got no crits here, and I was hitting for 339 on Doom, 191 on Agony, 94 on Anguish, and 87 on Dread. And at the end, 1,116 damage. That's definitely going to kill any caster that doesn't have heals. 100% going to kill any caster. You land 3 spells on a caster, it doesn't get heals, it's dead. Even any support that doesn't get healed or doesn't phase shift or anything crazy like that, it's dead. Even some tanks that don't have a ton of resist. And keep in mind, like, my Warlock doesn't have a ton of resist. It's not like a fucking great, or it's not a great template. It's not got resist or anything like that as far as like casted resist. But even if it had a lot of resist, I think this Warlock could still get one shot for sure. So yeah, super strong. Okay, just to show you how good this is in my opinion, I'm gonna put the Shaman in the Warlocks group. And then I'm going to put red matter resist on, and cold resist, which the big spells in this line are cold and matter. So this is going to give me roughly 50% resist to those. Okay, so this Warlock that I'm nuking has 50% matter, 52% cold, and 2k hit points. So I'm not going to heal. I'm going to heal a little bit, I think, because I think I'll need to. Okay. Did Doom land? Okay, I don't think Doom landed. Why didn't Doom land? Where am I? Okay, something resist. I just didn't see it. My bad. Let me redo that. I didn't see something. Okay, we're at 100. There's dread. There's anguish. There's agony. And here's doom. So this is with 50% cold and 50% matter. And it's definitely going to die. I'm going to have to heal it. So like right now it's about to explode. Okay, so 20%. And I healed it, 3 times before it exploded. So anyway, you can see the damage against red resist, 50% resist. This is how much you'll be doing. So still really not that bad. Your agony's hitting for 135, your doom's hitting for 242, and then at the end, doom hits for 747. It doesn't show 50% resist exactly because I have resist pierced, obviously. So it's only actually 40% resist, I suppose. So anyway, this is an insane damage spec. You have to land 3 spells with an instant dot, so 4 in total. And you also get all these cool little healing abilities. Now, I want to show you something cool as well. If the game doesn't break and end the duel every time I melee. But you can UI these as well. Okay, so let's turn on, here's my UI primer. Hit him with a dread. Hit him with an anguish. Hit him with an agony. And now hit him with a quick casted, hit him with an agony. And now hit him with a quick casted doom. Okay, that messed up completely. 1 second. So it quick casted my agony instead of my doom. I guess it resisted or something. Let me wait for my quick cast to come back up and I'll redo that. All right, Mr. Quick Cast, 10 seconds. Okay, so let's start meleeing again. We're on our UI deal. So there's our instant. Here's anguish. Here's agony. And now I'm going to quick cast doom. And this is all while being meleeed. And then he's dead. Without even doom going off. I guess I may have crit. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, a little crit on one of the spells. Anyway, so you see how much damage you can do. And like I said, that was with my UI primer up and a quick cast on doom. So you hit the instant spell, then you UI the 2 secondary anguish and agony, and then you quick cast doom. And whatever stuck to you dies. Great to use, and like you can use a solo. And then while the dots are ticking, you just UI group heal yourself. Cool. Anyway, so that's going to do it for the Witchcraft spec. I'm going to swap back to this Warlock, and we're going to talk about Arias. Actually, let me first show you the rank 5. Let's see if I can get it to launch in a duel. Sometimes realm duels are weird. So let's see if it works. So let's get into another duel. Sorry, it's taking a little while. / duel accept. Okay, so our rank 5 is this. Let's see, where is it? Boiling Cauldron. It's a instant cast. It's 2 second cast time. So you target someone, you hit it. You can. I think you can be moving while you're using it and everything like that. Is this really what it does now? Okay, it's not the right delve. There we go. It's an instant cast, 350 radius spell, 650 damage. DD. It doesn't hit for that much, I don't think. And it takes a little time to charge up. So we'll cast on this guy, and the cauldron comes down, and then as you can see here, it explodes at the end and hits for 485. So it's just a bit of extra damage. If someone's stunned and you know they're going to sit there for a second, go ahead and throw that on them, and it's going to hit hard. Pretty good. So that's the rank 5. Let's look at Arias. So you can get Ichor of the Deep, which any class you can get Ichor of the Deep on, especially if you have a root in that class. Get it, because you can. What Ichor of the Deep does is it clears root immunity. So if you root someone and then they purge or they get hit or something, and they sit out the whole entire root, once they have root immunity, you can hit them with Ichor of the Deep, which roots them for about 10 seconds. It's also a bolt range 500 radius AoE root for 10 seconds, which is also a really good rup, really good way to catch people. Just overall a good spell, but its main function is to reset the root immunity. So it takes away the root immunity so you can reroot someone immediately. and not have to wait a minute for the immunity to go away. So I always like to get Ichor 1 just for that purpose. I always get Purge. Obviously, get Purge. What level of Purge depends on how much reuse timer you want on Purge. I like Purge 3 just because I like a 10-minute reuse timer Purge. Purge 2 is good, even 15-minute reuse timer Purge. I wouldn't really go much lower than that unless you're like soloing or something. You get Purge 4. It's a 7.5-minute reuse. Other than that, that's about it for actives. I wouldn't really get anything else. You don't need Mock because you have obviously your UI primer. So no real point in getting Mock, I guess. You can get Bedazzling Aura if you find yourself dying to caster groups a lot and you need extra caster mitigation, but I'd probably rather get damage and just kill stuff, you know. You need some Auga decks on a Warlock. They do need a lot of decks. You probably want to get like 392 decks. If you're a Hex Warlock, 398 decks I would go for because your life tap's a 2.5 second cast spell and the break point for that is 398, so get that. At least 392 probably. You might get away with 374, but I don't know. I like to get 392 on most things. I don't know all the exact, I can't remember all the exact dex break points for Warlocks as far as what their spells do. Let's see. Dex break point. For cursing, you might get away with 374. Yeah, 374 is fine for cursing because your main nuke is 2.6 seconds. And that's the breakpoint for that. However, if you're P-bang a lot, 398 is going to be really good since it's a 2.5 second cast time. But yeah, it's all up to you. And just look at some breakpoint charts if you can. So get some Aug decks, and then I just get Mastery or Wild Power, Mastery, Majory, Aug Acuity, usually in that order. I like to keep my Wild Power a little bit higher than Majory and Acuity if I have to put extra points into things. Just because I like crit more than... other than constant damage increase. I like the burst factor of crit, the surprise factor. I think it's really good against, it's unpredictable, so healers have a harder time healing it. Physical defense is also good. It gives you some physical damage mitigation. Get a few points of physical defense if you find yourself getting ripped by tanks a lot. If you're Witchcraft, maybe get some wild healing, mastery healing if you want. Crit is super good with dots, as we saw. If you crit on a dot, if you crit on Doom, it's over. It's just so much damage, especially if you crit at the end when it explodes and hits for 1100. And if you crit and hit for like 500 extra, it's insane. That's pretty much it. Just get some damage RAs, maybe some physical defense, some wild healing, mastery healing if you're Witchcraft and you want to do that stuff, Purge and Ichor. That's pretty much it for pretty much all the Warlock RA specs, in my opinion. Also get some Mastery Focus, I forgot. Most of your spells aren't going to be level 50, so Mastery Focus 2 should be good enough on most things. Just helps you avoid resist. So that's nice. As far as templates go, I would, especially on Witchcraft Warlocks, I would definitely get the curse set because it's gonna decrease your power cost on your UI by 5%, which is really nice. Get as much Arcane Siphon as you can, especially if you're going to use that UI primer a lot. It's going to save you a ton of power. Get as much power regen from Mytherians. I think the curse set has some power regen on it. Things like that. Get some of that in there. Power regen is super important if you're using the UI primer. Yeah, spell duration's good if you're rooting and stuff like that. I don't think spell duration is important for Witchcraft too because you have a root, but spell duration is not going to affect your dot duration, so don't worry about that. But you still, I think, do need spell duration in your template. Heal bonus if you're Witchcraft is going to be super nice. Extra heal bonus. Your Warlock Cloak is pretty cool. What it does, it has a instant dot on it, and this dot actually hits pretty hard. So if you want some free dot damage, if you're into that, get this. If not, you can always go for a different cloak. It's not the end of the world. Get a melee resist charge, something that has 10% melee resist or 12 in the cloak's case. You can use the Otherworld belt or something like that if you want. Yeah, there's a lot of different options, standard caster stuff, but if you're Witchcraft, get some heal stuff too. And you really need Arcane Siphon on Warlock, in my opinion. Other than that, strategy-wise, it's all depending on your spec, really, what your group's doing. Let me show you a spec really quick too. A cool Witchcraft spec or a cool idea for. I don't know if this exact spec's great, but it is an option. So if you don't want to go for the dots, so you need to go 50 Witchcraft to get Doom, which I don't think you should go for Agony or anything. Agony is 47. If you're going to go for that, go ahead and get Doom. But if you don't want to do damage, you want to be a pure support Warlock, you can go something like, let's see, the group heal is at 46. You can go 46 Witchcraft and get the group heal, and then get the level 22 primer. Or, and this primer is going to be better than one you have because it's going to, oops, wrong primer actually. There we go, 22 of your UI primer. So this is going to cost, without the curse set or anything, 35% power. Or sorry, 25% power, and it's going to give you 35%, reduce their effectiveness by 35%. So that's nice. So you can spam more group heals and they'll be a little bit better. However, what you can do, if you really want to, and this is kind of cool in my opinion, I don't know if this is a great spec, I've never played it or anything, but it just sounds cool. You go for the yellow group heal, and then you go for the level 38 UI primer, and that's going to give you 14% power cost, and it's only going to reduce the effectiveness by 20%. And if you use the curse set, it's only 9% power cost. So that's really good. So you can literally spam group heals for a really long time. So I like that. You know, I might consider going something like that. And you still get a good absorb, 21 absorb versus the big 31. So you lose some absorb, but this is a really cool support spec in my opinion. You get a lot of UI heals if you're into that. But it's up to you. Anyway, that was just a quick idea. You can play around with a lot of the Witchcraft specs, I think, for support Warlock if you really want to. But if you want the dots, you gotta go 50 for the Doom. Anyway, that was the Warlock class. Sorry for the long-winded video. It's a lot to cover. If you have any tips, suggestions, any questions about Warlock, let me know. If you want me to delve deeper into anything, let me know as well in the comments. Thanks again for watching. That was a Warlock class on Midgard. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later.